It was a quiet evening when my phone rang, breaking the calm. The voice on the other end was Michelle's, my husband's younger sister. "Hi, is this Catherine? Can you come over for a bit?" There was a noticeable tremor in her voice, a hint of distress that immediately piqued my curiosity. "Sure, I'll head over right now," I responded, trying to reassure her, even though the concern in her tone was enough to send a flicker of worry through me. Michelle's house was only a short walk away, and I didn't hesitate. When I arrived, she led me into a room that caught me off guard. A cardboard box sat in the center, but it wasn't what you'd expect. It was buzzing loudly. My heart skipped a beat. "What the heck is this?" I thought, as I slowly opened the box. "Bees!" A cloud of them erupted into the air. Michelle looked at me, her face pale. "I think we should call Bob," she suggested, her voice barely above a whisper. "He was at the coffee shop," she explained. Talking in a room full of bees didn't seem like the best idea, so we decided to step outside. On the porch, the three of us gathered, Michelle, Bob's wife, and me. "So, Michelle," I asked, trying to make sense of the chaos, "why do you have a box of bees in your house?" Michelle hesitated, looking down, as if trying to recall an answer. "I don't know," she murmured. "I just picked it up. It was left in front of my house." My mind raced. "That can't be." I started, but then she finished my sentence. "That box was sent to me by my daughter, Emily," she said softly, almost as if she too couldn't believe it. I tried to make sense of it all. But before I could ask anything further, my thoughts drifted to my own life, a bit of normalcy in the middle of the absurdity. I'm Catherine Jones, 65 years old, and I work part-time at the local supermarket. Through all the ups and downs of life, there's one thing that's never changed: my love for stuffed animals. Even as a child, when money was tight, teddy bears and stuffed animals were rare treasures. But now, as an adult, I indulge in them every chance I get. Every time I travel, or go out, I buy another bear to add to my growing collection. My husband, Larry, is my #1 supporter in this strange hobby. Larry works at City Hall, and his practical, no-nonsense approach balances my occasional eccentricities. It was a year ago when I came across a teddy bear I simply had to have. A limited edition item, part of a collaboration between a popular brand and a character I adored. The problem was, I'd never shopped online. The idea of doing so was intimidating. I was ready to give up on the idea when I turned to Larry. "Leave the online shopping to me," he said, his voice calm and assuring. I watched as Larry, who'd only recently begun ordering things online for me, showed me how to navigate the process. It felt like a small victory when I finally placed the order. From there, I started ordering everything online: groceries, daily necessities, and yes, more teddy bears. Then came December, the supermarket's busiest time of the year. I worked almost every day, leaving me little time to pick up my online packages. Larry, too, was busier than usual. That's when I discovered the delivery service where packages could be left at the front door, even if no one was home. It was a game changer. I embraced it quickly. But when the delivery service sent me an email one day, notifying me that a package had arrived, I didn't think much of it. After all, it was a notification I had received many times before. Yet, when I arrived home that evening and went to collect the package from its usual spot, there was nothing. I checked again. Still nothing. "Strange," I muttered under my breath, as the sound of crows echoed in the distance. The sky had turned an eerie shade of sunset orange, but Larry was still at work. As I stepped inside, I put the thought of the missing package out of my mind, focusing on preparing dinner. But in the days that followed, the package was still nowhere to be found. Time was slipping by, and I hadn't found the time to address the undelivered parcel. Then, one Sunday morning, while watching the news, Larry turned to me. "I'm in the mood for that omelet," he said casually. He was referring to the omelet from a small cafe, owned by his sister Michelle and her husband Bob. Larry had an affinity for their food, particularly Bob's Omelette. It was the kind of place we called our favorite spot, though we only visited once a month. We decided on a whim to go. The sky was cloudless, the air crisp, as we walked to the cafe, just around the corner. The jingle of the doorbell greeted us as we entered, and Michelle was there to welcome us with a smile. "Thanks for coming in. Please take a seat at the counter," she said. As always, her warmth filled the room. We took our usual spots in front of the kitchen counter, and Bob was there, preparing the omelets with his usual flair. "How are y'all doing?" Bob asked, looking up briefly from his cooking. "Doing well," Larry replied with his signature relaxed demeanor. The small cafe, though only occupied by a handful of customers, buzzed with the energy of familiar faces. I couldn't help but smile at the atmosphere, light-hearted, comfortable, and perfectly imperfect. "Can we get two of the usual?" I asked. Bob's response was instant, a friendly nod. "Leave it to me." In no time, our plates were filled with perfectly made omelets, and Michelle placed them in front of us. The familiar taste, so comforting, filled me with contentment. "This is so delicious," Larry said, grinning as he dug in. "It's one of those dishes I suddenly crave, and it never disappoints." As we finished, Michelle served us coffee. The conversation turned easy and casual, but something caught my eye. Michelle was wearing a pair of earrings that looked strikingly familiar. They resembled the ones I had recently ordered online. "Those earrings are so cute, Michelle," I remarked without thinking. Michelle smiled. "Oh, thank you. I got them online." "Online shopping sure is handy," I said, almost absent-mindedly. "But I don't know. I always feel like I'm missing something when I don't get to receive my packages." Michelle raised an eyebrow. "Is there such a thing?" she asked, curious. I leaned forward, excited to share. "Yeah, it's a service where packages can be left by your door when you're not home. I've been using it for a while now." Michelle's expression softened, understanding. "Oh, I see. That sounds convenient." I smiled, but then something made me pause. I checked the status of my recent deliveries. The limited edition teddy bear was still marked as preparing for shipment. And there, right below it, was the cosmetic product, marked as delivered. "But it hasn't arrived," I muttered, showing Michelle my phone. "I hope you find it." Just then, I caught Larry's eye. He and his friends were talking, but as he noticed us, he wandered over. "We'll just have to wait for it to show up someday," Larry said with his usual laid-back attitude. I admired Larry's calmness. But inside, something didn't sit right. Later, as we walked back home, I checked the delivery status again. The teddy bear still hadn't arrived. The thought gnawed at me. What could be going wrong? 2 days later, I eagerly checked again. The teddy bear was finally marked as redelivered. I rushed home after work, barely able to contain my excitement. But when I got to my front door, the package was still nowhere to be seen. Frustration bubbled up inside me. I hadn't received this teddy bear, an item I'd been longing for. It should have been part of my collection by now. That evening, I spoke with Larry. "I didn't get the teddy bear. What's going on?" Larry frowned, his usually carefree demeanor slipping for a moment. "How many times has this happened now?" I sighed, feeling the weight of the situation. "Probably 3 times, I said. "Something's not right." Without hesitation, Larry grabbed his phone. "I'll call the post office now." "Let's do that," Larry agreed. I grabbed my phone, dialed the nearest post office, and hoped for some good news. The delivery man answered with a sigh in his voice. "I can't find the package you said you left at the door," he said, the frustration clear. I frowned. "Really?" "I'm sure I left it right in front of your door," I replied, though doubt began creeping in. "I thought maybe you still had it." "What's going on?" I asked, the uncertainty thickening the air. He hesitated, then spoke slowly, as if considering my next move. Well, there's a possibility someone stole it. You might want to file a police report. His words hit me hard. I felt a wave of hopelessness crash over me. Thanks, I'll think about it, I said, but my heart sank. For some reason, I felt sorry for the delivery man, too. He was just doing his job. But what could we do now? I had no proof, no way to show that it had been stolen, and the thought of filing a report seemed daunting. It was Larry who broke the silence. Let's ask Emily. She might know what to do. Emily. Our daughter, now 40, married and with a life that seemed to drown in responsibilities. But I had an inkling Emily always had a creative solution when things felt impossible. I decided to give her a call. Hello? Her voice was familiar, warm, but it carried a tone of being stretched thin. Hey, it's Mom, I started. What's up? Emily responded. I explained the whole situation, about the packages that never made it, and the delivery guy's insistence that they had been left at the door. Sounds like someone might be taking them, Emily said after a pause, her voice thoughtful. I thought so too. What should I do? I asked, desperate for an answer. Then came her suggestion. I've got an idea, she said with a hint of mischief in her voice. I'm going to send over a box of bees. I blinked, sure I hadn't heard her correctly. Bees? I repeated, skeptical. Yeah, hear me out, she continued, if we leave it out for delivery, maybe we can catch the thief red-handed when they open it. I stared at my phone in disbelief. The idea was wild. Bold. Almost absurd. Can you really do that? I asked, still unsure. Don't worry about it, Emily chuckled. We've got a huge swarm of bees at home. This might just do the trick. My heart raced a little, unsure whether to be excited or terrified. But a part of me, a small hopeful part, thought, what if this works? A few days later, I eagerly awaited the delivery. I checked my phone after work, hoping for a sign. When I walked through the door, my hopes were dashed, the package was gone again. No box. No bees. I sighed. Was I doomed to never catch this thief? I was just about to give up when my phone buzzed. It was Michelle. Hello? I answered, my voice catching in my throat. Catherine, can you come over? Please, it's urgent. Her voice was tight, anxious. My stomach twisted. Michelle's house was just a short walk away, so I agreed, sure, I'll be right there. When I arrived, she led me to her room, and I froze. Bees! Everywhere! They buzzed, filled the air in a chaotic frenzy. Oh my gosh, I gasped. What happened? I asked, heart pounding. When I opened the box, this is what I found inside, Michelle explained, her face pale. My eyes scanned the room, still processing the sight. Bees, swarming. Inside her room. I knew Emily had told me that bees wouldn't sting at this time of year unless provoked, so I didn't feel threatened. But Michelle? She was a different story. I think I should call Bob. He should be at the coffee shop, I said, feeling a bit overwhelmed. Michelle and I stepped outside as I dialed Bob's number, trying to make sense of everything. What's going on here? Bob asked when he arrived. I explained the situation. I ordered to have my packages left at the front door, and they've been disappearing. It's likely they're being stolen. I tried to stay calm as I explained, but inside, I felt this mounting frustration. Michelle turned defensive. It wasn't me. I didn't take anything. She said it quickly, almost too quickly. Michelle, did you steal them? I asked bluntly. She froze, eyes widening. No, she snapped, raising her voice. My suspicion grew. Can I take a look around? I asked. Maybe other stuff has been taken. Michelle's response was quick. No way, she said, her eyes darting to the door. She insisted on going into the room herself, not letting me inside. I stood, helpless, and waited. As I talked to Bob, I heard Michelle scream from inside. Had she been stung? We rushed to the door. She emerged, hair wild, face flushed. The room's a mess with all those bees. Please, just go home for today, she said, shaking her head. I'm not letting anyone in right now. Before I could say another word, a new figure appeared. A beekeeper named Oliver, a friend of Emily's, stepped up with confidence. Emily asked me to help with the bee situation, he said, after introductions. Is it okay if I take care of them? I nodded, relief flooding through me. At least now, we had someone who knew what to do. Yes, please, I said. Michelle was still flustered, but Bob and I followed Oliver inside. While they dealt with the bees, we kept talking outside. I guess we'll finally be able to check the room now, I said, trying to sound optimistic. Michelle was quick to respond. I've only got my things in there. Nothing worth checking. I raised an eyebrow. Something felt off. 30 minutes later, Oliver emerged, carrying a box. 900 honeybees, he said with disbelief. I stepped inside, my eyes scanning the room. It didn't take long to find the first clue. Fabric softener. Cosmetics. Items I had ordered, scattered everywhere. So, you've been taking all these too? I asked, voice shaking with frustration. Michelle's face went pale. No, I haven't, she said, but the lies were starting to unravel. I pulled out my phone, showing her the order history, the evidence clear. Still denying it? I asked. Michelle faltered. Well, we might have bought the same things, she tried, but it was a weak defense. I wasn't buying it. And then I saw it. The teddy bear. A familiar one. I picked it up, heart sinking. Is this teddy bear one of yours? I asked. Michelle nodded. But I knew the truth. The number on the bear matched the one I had ordered. It was mine. This teddy bear is mine, Michelle, I said, holding it out, evidence clear. Bob looked at me, speechless. I didn't know stuffed animals could be so precise, he muttered. Michelle's face flushed with guilt. She didn't speak. I pushed further. So you've been stealing from me all along? Michelle didn't answer immediately. Then, finally, she sighed and admitted it. Yes, she said quietly. But why? Why steal? I asked, frustration boiling over. Michelle looked down. I was out of money. I couldn't afford everything, she explained, barely above a whisper. And yet, you kept spending. On what? I pressed. She hesitated, before a guilty expression crossed her face. Bob suddenly grabbed a piece of paper from the floor. What's this? He asked. His voice was sharper now. I gasped when I saw it. Michelle had been betting on horse races, using the stolen money. Bob's eyes widened in fury. You didn't take any money from the cafe's earnings, did you? He demanded. Just a little, Michelle whispered, defeated. A cold wave of realization hit. You stole tens of thousands of dollars from the cafe, didn't you? Bob's voice was tight with anger. Michelle burst into tears, apologizing over and over. But for me, it was too late. The betrayal stung too much. Bob had been secretly recording our conversation, and with that, he had the proof he needed. Shall we meet in court? He said, his tone firm, unwavering. We filed a police report. And soon, Michelle was arrested for theft. She lost everything. The cafe thrived without her, and sales soared. As for me, I found peace in the simple things. Larry and I even took trips to collect limited edition teddy bears. With each new edition, I felt my heart lighter. Every day was filled with joy, surrounded by these cherished, soft reminders of love and happiness. Let's keep up the good work, Larry said, smiling. And for the first time in a long while, I felt truly content.